Immersive Engineering by BluSunrize and Mr. Hazard brings engineering to Minecraft in an entirely new way, featuring complex multi-block devices to assemble, a new form of energy to power up the world, and many unique gadgets to craft. The player can use these alongside several additional features to create an interconnected and industrialized world. Starting off in this mod can be done in many ways, whether it's mining for ores or creating the necessary tools to start with. As an engineer, going to achieve as many of these tasks as possible will make the initial stages of the mod easier and less daunting. An engineer's manual is one of the most useful items in the mod, essentially being a complete guide for players to understand how the mod works, ranging from visualizing how to assemble multi-block structures to learning about connectors and relays and the new resources that can be acquired. Speaking of resources, mining for iron, coal and wood are certainly resources that are critical for any player, but collecting as many of the new ores as possible would prove incredibly helpful for proceeding through the early stages of the mod. Starting a hemp farm up early can also be beneficial for acquiring a plentiful supply of hemp fiber to use later on. Perhaps an engineer's best friend is a trusty hammer that assembles multi-block machines like the blast furnace, flattens ingots into plates, grinds ores into dust, and can adjust the inflow and outflow of power from blocks like capacitors. Whilst not mandatory, finding the new villager types and their houses can offer a quick boost of resources or method to obtain new items directly. Before getting carried away with planning out which machines to make first, Immersive Engineering uses its own form of energy, Immersive Flux, or IF. IF behaves like electricity, in which wires of different voltages are used to transfer power to machines and capacitors. Each intensity of voltage has a different transfer rate, intensity and loss rate. The higher the voltage, the more power it can transfer, and the less power it loses over distance. Playing with power can be dangerous, for overflowing the transfer rates of wires can cause them to burn out. Active wires alone can also deal damage to any foolish player or mob. Distributing power now is not only about making the power flow to machines in the simplest means possible, but also in the safest way it can. Basic forms of energy creation can be achieved with a kinetic dynamo or a thermoelectric generator. Kinetic dynamos rely on kinetic energy from attached windmills or water wheels to generate early forms of power, but are affected by factors like water flow and weather, which can limit or increase their energy potential. Thermoelectric generators instead rely on the energy created based off the temperature difference between harnessing hot and cold sources simultaneously, such as using lava and ice. Advancing through the mod, however, will require generators that output greater amounts of energy. The diesel generator is one such generator that can meet the power demands of high voltage machines. Requiring a mixture of blocks like radiators and steel scaffolding, diesel generators run off forms of combustible fuel, like biodiesel. Its high power output requires a constant and fast stream of fuel to keep operating properly. Lightning rods are a more intriguing alternative, harnessing pure lightning from nature into sparking huge amounts of energy that becomes stored within the multi-block. Its huge potential shouldn't be a source to solely rely on, for thunderstorms need to occur with there being only a chance for lightning to strike the rod. Energy transfer requires a few core components to distribute and output power to machines and networks. Capacitors store the energy that it receives, able to contain it or redirect it to other devices for powering them up. Even when broken, capacitors still retain the energy inside it, making the transportation of huge quantities of energy much easier. Capacitors have the options to receive or send power in a single direction or multiple directions, or have no power at all. Connectors attach to machines, generators, and capacitors to wires for transferring energy. Connectors, when attached on opposing sides to a single block, can be turned into feed-through insulators, making energy transfer between walls simple. Relays act as connection points for when the distance is too great. With these, relays can be linked to connectors for rerouting power to multiple sources, but can't be used for inputting or outputting power. Transformers can bypass the restrictions wires of different voltages have, and transitions the power flow between wires of different intensities. For times when the wiring can get too messy, wire cutters will become a viable tool, able to disconnect the wires from blocks. With a variety of resources accumulated, and after understanding Immersive Flux, there are a few simple machines that should be crafted as soon as possible. The coke oven is the first machine that should be made, assembled into a multi-block structure of coke bricks. Coke ovens are solely responsible for heating coal into coal coke, a carbon-rich fuel that is required for more intensive smelting processes, with a chance to create creosote oil in the process, a byproduct that can turn wood into treated wood. Crude blast furnaces heats up iron and refines it into steel, another crucial material for this mod that is assembled into a multi-block structure from blast bricks. Achieving the refinement from iron into steel requires only high carbon-based fuels like coal coke or charcoal. From forming steel, however, a wasteful byproduct, slag, is produced, which needs to be emptied out manually to keep the machine operating. With enough steel, the crude furnace can be upgraded to an improved blast furnace that can not only automate steel, but can be fitted with preheaters to accelerate the process of forging steel. An engineer's crafting table is a suitable upgrade from the standard workbench, keeping the items in the crafting grid, and features a small space for storing items. Upgrading the table further into an engineer's workbench opens the ability to create items that are hidden in blueprints. Most blueprints can be crafted, however some require further exploration in the world to uncover. Progressing further into immersive engineering opens more opportunities to create more complex machines and devices. One such machine is the refinery, which mixes plant oil and ethanol into biodiesel, a core fuel used in powering diesel generators. Similar to the refinery, the mixer dissolves and mixes blocks and fluids together into new fluids, primarily used for making liquid concrete and even making potions. A core machine that would make resources twice as quantitative is the crusher, a giant multi-block machine that effectively crushes down ores to yield double the dust. Complementing well with the crusher is the arc furnace, that excels in smelting ores and dust into ingot form, but requires a high level of maintenance and inflow of power to run. Besides revolutionizing the world with multi-block machines and power, several gadgets and blocks are also available to seek out. Dealing with loud machines can be equivalent to a villager trading hall, so fortunately, the ear defenders can negate all the busy sounds within those environments. A small collection of new tools can be crafted. Rip trees down with the buzzsaw, drill rock fast with the mining drill, or zip along power lines with the engineer's skyhawk. Some of these new tools can be modified to make them more durable or efficient. Building up a base can attract the attention of unwanted guests. Fortunately, new defenses can be installed to keep them out, with razor wire to cut enemies down into pieces and the option of using gun or chemical turrets to fire away at mobs from a distance. A means of adding some visual aesthetic to items and blocks can be done with shaders. Shaders can be obtained by trading with outfitted villagers or through killing bosses, coming in different varieties from uncommon to epic tier. These shaders are based off various IPs like Fallout, Mass Effect, Kingdom Hearts, and Destiny. Shaders can be directly applied to blocks and entities, or to items with the engineer's workbench, adding some visual style to your tools of the trade, and more. Immersive Engineering is certainly one of the most creative technology-based mods out there, making the machines feel like proper machines, instead of being compact single blocks. Most of the multi-blocks and even blocks look and feel unique, and are relatively easy to identify once you've played extensively with the mod. Although it can seem underwhelming having so many machines that seem to make only one or two items, having them play off each other really helps to make the experience more immersive. Thanks to BluSunrize and Mr. Hazard for making this unique tech mod, and link to download it is in the description below.